Don't look. That spot still hurts. The rancher stood still, then did something terrifying. The sun rose slowly over the wide lands of Red Hollow Ranch, painting the sky in soft orange and gold. The air was calm, but there was something strange about the silence that covered the place. It did not feel peaceful in a happy way. It felt heavy, like the land itself was holding its breath. At the center of the ranch lived a man named Ethan Cole. He was known as a strong rancher, someone who could fix fences, guide horses, and handle hard work without asking for help. But people also knew something else about him. Ethan was quiet, too quiet. He spoke only when needed, and he rarely smiled. Most of the ranch was full of life. Horses moved across open fields. Wind passed through tall grass. The barn creaked softly in the morning. But there was one part of the ranch that always felt different. It was a small corner near an old wooden fence and a large oak tree. That place looked untouched, almost forgotten. No animals went there, no workers stayed near it. Even the wind seemed slower when it passed that area, and Ethan never went there. Whenever his work brought him close, he would stop. His hands would freeze for a moment, his eyes would lower, and he would quietly turn away, as if something invisible was pulling him back. Sometimes, if someone asked him a question while passing that area, Ethan would simply say in a low voice, "Don't look, that spot still hurts." Then he would walk away without saying anything else. No one ever dared to ask him what he meant. Not the workers, not the travelers passing through. Everyone could feel that the question carried something heavy, something better left untouched. But one day, everything began to change. A young woman named Mira Lane arrived at Red Hollow Ranch. She was looking for work, hoping for a fresh start. Life had not been easy for her, but she carried herself with quiet strength. Her eyes noticed everything, even the things people tried to hide. Ethan agreed to let her stay and help on the ranch. At first, he did not talk much to her. He gave simple instructions and kept his distance. Mira did not mind. She was used to people being quiet or guarded. Still, she noticed something strange right away. Ethan worked hard everywhere on the ranch, but never near the old oak tree. One morning, Mira was fixing a broken fence on the far side of the property. From where she stood, she could clearly see that forgotten corner. The grass there was taller than anywhere else. The fence looked older, weaker, like no one had touched it in years. She saw Ethan walking toward that direction. He carried tools like he planned to fix something, but halfway there, he suddenly stopped. He stood still for a long time. The wind moved around him, but he did not move. His shoulders looked heavy, as if something invisible had pressed down on him. Then, slowly, he turned around and walked the other way. Mira found it strange, but she said nothing. Days passed. She continued her work and slowly got used to the rhythm of the ranch. Still, she could not forget that one place. It seemed to call her attention without words. One evening, while they were sitting outside the barn, Mira finally spoke. "Why don't you go there anymore?" she asked gently. Ethan did not answer right away. He looked at the ground, as if choosing his words carefully. The night was quiet except for the sound of distant wind through the fields. After a long pause, he said softly, "Some places don't forget what happened in them." Mira waited, but he said nothing more. That night, she could not sleep. The ranch felt different in the dark. The shadows of the barn stretched longer. The wind felt colder. And somewhere in the distance, that forgotten corner seemed even more silent than before. Mira lay awake, thinking about Ethan's words. What could make a strong man avoid a piece of land so deeply? Why did he speak about it like it was alive? Outside her window, the old oak tree stood still in the moonlight. And for a moment, it almost felt like it was waiting. Morning came slowly over Red Hollow Ranch. The sky was pale and a thin layer of mist moved across the open fields. Horses stood quietly near the fence and the barn doors creaked as the wind passed through. Everything looked normal again, but Mira Lane still felt uneasy after the conversation she had with Ethan the night before. His words stayed in her mind. Some places don't forget what happened in them. She kept thinking about that old corner of the ranch, the one near the oak tree. It was strange how a single part of land could make a strong man like Ethan avoid it completely. Mira had seen many ranches before, but she had never seen anything like this. That morning, she decided to observe more carefully. Ethan was already working when she came out. He was fixing a broken gate on the other side of the ranch. His movements were steady, strong, and focused. But even from a distance, Mira noticed something. He kept turning his head slightly, as if making sure that certain direction stayed out of his view, the direction of the old oak tree. Mira tried to act normal and continued her work, but her eyes kept drifting toward that forgotten corner. The grass there was still taller than everywhere else. The fence looked old and weak, like it had not been repaired in years. Even the birds seemed to avoid landing near it. By midday, Mira was assigned to collect tools from the storage shed. The shed was closer to the center of the ranch, but as she walked back, she found herself slowly moving closer to the restricted area without realizing it. The air felt different as she approached. It was quieter, like sound itself was fading. The wind that was strong everywhere else became soft and slow here. She stopped at a safe distance and looked ahead. The old oak tree stood tall, its branches wide and still. Its shadow stretched across the ground like a dark memory. The fence around it was broken in places, almost like it had been left untouched for a very long time. Mira took a small step forward, then another. Nothing happened. No sound, no movement, just silence. She felt a strange pressure in her chest, not fear exactly, but something heavier, like the land itself was telling her to turn back. But before she could move any further, a voice came from behind her. "Don't go there!" Mira turned quickly. Ethan was standing a few steps away. His face looked calm, but his eyes were different. There was tension in them, like he had been holding something back for a long time. "I was just looking," Mira said quietly. Ethan walked closer, but he did not come near the tree. He stopped at the same invisible boundary he always respected. He looked at the ground for a moment, then said in a low voice, "That place is not just land." Mira waited, not interrupting. Ethan continued slowly. "It holds things that don't go away, even if time passes." The wind moved through the grass, making a soft sound. But near the oak tree, even the wind felt weak. Mira looked at Ethan carefully. For the first time, she saw something in him she had not noticed before. It was not just silence. It was weight, like he was carrying something invisible on his shoulders. "Did something happen there?" she asked gently. Ethan did not answer right away. His hands tightened slightly, then relaxed. He looked toward the oak tree, but not directly at it, as if even seeing it fully was difficult. After a long pause, he said, "This ranch has many memories. Some are good, some are not." He stopped there. Mira understood that he would not say more. That evening, Ethan stayed inside the barn longer than usual. Mira watched from a distance as he checked the horses and cleaned tools, but his mind seemed far away. Every time he passed near the direction of the oak tree, he slowed down for a moment, then continued quickly. It was as if even looking at that side of the ranch cost him effort. Later that night, Mira sat outside her small room. The ranch was quiet again, but not peaceful. The silence here felt different. It was the kind of silence that made thoughts louder. She looked toward the dark shape of the oak tree in the distance. It stood still under the night sky, unchanged, waiting. And she realized something important. Ethan was not just avoiding that place. He was afraid of what it might make him remember. The night over Red Hollow Ranch was quiet, but it was not peaceful. The stars were bright in the sky, yet the land below felt heavy, as if something unspoken was pressing down on it. The wind moved slowly through the fields, brushing against the tall grass near the old oak tree. Inside the small ranch house, Ethan Cole sat alone. A small lantern flickered on the wooden table. Its light moved gently across his tired face. He had not spoken much all day. Since Mira's question, something inside him had changed. It was not visible, but it was there. Like a door inside his mind that had been locked for years was now shaking again. Outside, Mira Lane stood near the porch. She could not sleep. Something about Ethan's silence made her restless. She did not feel danger, but she felt truth hiding behind it. Something painful, something unfinished. She looked toward the dark shape of the oak tree in the distance. Tonight, it did not feel like just a tree. It felt like a memory standing in the middle of the land. After a long moment, Mira made a decision. She walked slowly across the yard. The ground was soft under her feet. Every step sounded louder than usual in the quiet night. As she moved closer to the forbidden corner, the air seemed to change again. The sounds of insects faded. Even the wind became weak. The oak tree stood tall ahead of her. Mira stopped just a few steps away. She looked at the broken fence, the uneven ground, the untouched grass. It was as if time refused to move here. "Why does he fear this place so much?" she whispered to herself. Before she could take another step, a voice came from behind her. "Because I told myself never to come back here." Mira turned quickly. Ethan was standing behind her. His face was pale in the moonlight, but his eyes were steady. He looked tired, not from work, but from memories. "I did not want you here," he said softly. "I just wanted to understand," Mira replied gently. Ethan looked at the oak tree. This time, he did not turn away. He stood still, as if forcing himself to stay. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then slowly, he began to speak. This place. It was not always like this, Ethan said. Years ago, this part of the ranch was full of life. I used to come here every day. It was where I planned my future. Everything I had, I built it around this land. Mira listened carefully, not interrupting. Ethan continued, his voice low and careful. There was a time when I trusted everything here. But one day, something happened. Not something loud, not something people would see as danger, but something that changed everything for me. He paused. The wind moved gently through the oak tree's branches, but Ethan did not move away this time. I made a decision back then, he said. A small one. I thought it would not matter. I thought I was doing the right thing, but it led to something I can never undo in my mind. Mira stayed silent. Ethan's hands tightened slightly, then relaxed again. I did not lose anything that day in the way people think, he continued, but I lost my peace. And this place, it became a reminder of that moment. He looked down at the ground. That is why I never come here, he said. Not because something is here, but because something is inside me when I stand here. The silence that followed was deep. Even the night seemed to listen. Mira looked at him carefully. For the first time, she understood. This was not a story of fear of land. It was a story of fear of memory. You didn't destroy anything, Mira said softly, but you never forgave yourself. Ethan closed his eyes for a moment. Her words felt simple, but they reached something deep inside him. I thought if I stayed away, it would fade, he said quietly. But it never did. The oak tree stood between them and the sky. Its branches moved slightly, like it was breathing with the wind. Mira took a small step closer, not to the tree, but to Ethan. Maybe running from it is what keeps it alive, she said. Ethan did not answer, but for the first time in many years, he did not turn away from that place. He simply stood there. And the land, for a moment, felt less heavy than before. The night was almost gone when Red Hollow Ranch began to change. A soft light spread across the horizon, slowly pushing away the darkness. The wind moved gently through the fields, no longer heavy or sharp. It felt calmer, like the land itself was waiting for something important to happen. Near the old oak tree, Ethan Cole stood still. For years he had avoided this place. For years he had walked away without looking back. But now, he was not running anymore. Mira Lane stood a few steps behind him, watching quietly. She did not speak. She did not rush him. She simply stayed there, as if her presence was enough. The oak tree looked the same as always, tall, silent, and unmoving. The broken fence around it still showed the marks of time. The grass was wild and uneven. But today, it did not feel like a forbidden place. It felt like a place waiting to be seen again. Ethan took a slow breath. His hands were slightly tense, but he did not turn away. His eyes stayed fixed on the ground in front of him. This is the first time, he said softly, that I have stood here without running. Mira did not respond. She only nodded slightly, encouraging him to continue. Ethan stepped forward. One step, then another. Each step felt heavier than the last, not because the land stopped him, but because his own memories did. The closer he came to the oak tree, the more he felt the weight he had carried for so many years. He stopped at the center of the forgotten space. The wind moved through the branches above him, making a soft sound. It was not scary. It was almost peaceful. Ethan closed his eyes. For a moment, he remembered everything, not in fear, but in clarity. The past did not change, but the way he saw it began to shift. I used to think this place was the reason I was broken, he said slowly. I used to believe that if I never came here again, I would be okay. He opened his eyes. But I was wrong. Mira stepped slightly closer, still keeping a respectful distance. Ethan looked at her. It was never the land, he said. It was what I carried inside me. The silence between them was different now. It was no longer heavy. It felt honest. Ethan slowly bent down and touched the ground. His hand pressed into the soil, feeling it for the first time without fear. The earth was still warm from the morning sun. It did not reject him. It did not push him away. He stayed like that for a moment. Then he stood up again. I cannot change what happened in my past, he said, but I can stop letting it control my present. Mira's eyes softened. She could see something different in him now. Not pain, but acceptance. Ethan walked closer to the old oak tree. He placed his hand gently on its rough bark. The tree was old, but strong. It had survived storms, seasons, and time itself. I remember now, he whispered, not to the land, but to himself. I am still here, Dill. A quiet breeze passed through the branches. The leaves moved softly, like they were responding. Mira finally spoke. What will you do now? She asked. Ethan did not answer immediately. He looked around the ranch, the fields, the fence lines, the open sky. This land had been his home, but also his burden. Now it felt different. I will rebuild, he said at last. Not the land, but myself. He turned toward Mira. And maybe, I will stop avoiding the things that made me afraid. Mira gave a small, calm smile. That sounds like a beginning, she said. Ethan nodded. For the first time in many years, he did not feel trapped by the past. He felt grounded in the present. The sun finally rose fully over Red Hollow Ranch. Light spread across the fields, touching every corner, including the old oak tree. But this time, the place did not feel like a wound. It felt like a memory that had finally been understood. Ethan and Mira stood there for a while longer, not speaking. There was no need for words anymore. The silence of the ranch was no longer heavy. It was peaceful. And as the wind moved across the land, Red Hollow Ranch felt whole again, not because the past was erased, but because it was finally faced.